Lucid dreaming is all about thinking clearly, but how clearly do you think? Alright, so today's video is a test of how well you think. Not how smart you are, because that's really easy to fake, but how clearly, critically, and honestly you can look at something without jumping to conclusions. So I'm going to tell you 3 stories. Each one is simple, ordinary, and a little bit strange, but each contains a hidden idea, a metaphor, for something that goes wrong in the lucid dreaming world. And your task is simple. Listen carefully and try to figure out what each story is really about. Think of it as an intelligence test designed as storytelling. Okay, so here's the first story, just pay attention. So you're walking down the street, it's the afternoon, the birds are singing, but it's kind of getting a little bit dark. And then a van pulls up beside you. It's an old white van, it looks a bit rough around the edges, and on the side is scrawled in big permanent marker, "Free candy." So that's a bit weird for a start, but you'd like some free candy, obviously. Then a very charismatic guy leans out of the window, gives you a big, charming smile and says, "Get in! There's amazing stuff in here, you have to see this." And he's so friendly and nice, and he tells you everyone's doing it and there's as much candy as you want if you just get in the van. And just as you're making up your mind, someone grabs you by the arm. They don't introduce themselves, they're not particularly polite, and they just say, Don't get in the van." Now here's the problem. Who do you trust? The charismatic man offering you something you want, or the stranger giving you a warning? Because here's the thing. One person's being friendly and lovely, and it sounds like something good, and the other person is just being abrupt. And maybe, just maybe, they want all the candy for themselves. Maybe the person warning you is actually the bad person. So which do you think is the person you should trust? Okay, so just think about that for a moment, let it ponder in your mind for a bit, and if you want, you can leave your answer in the comments below. Let's move on to story number 2. So there's a bloke, let's call him Dave. Dave is out of shape, he's flabby around the middle, he gets out of breath really easily, he eats really, really badly. But good for Dave, he decides he's going to do something about it, and he signs up for a local gym. And on the first day at the gym, his personal trainer gives him some basic exercises, nothing too heroic. And Dave works really hard, he's doing his press-ups, he's lifting the weights, he's feeling good about himself because he's finally turning things around. But then, when Dave gets home, sweating like a pig, he starts to feel a bit off, his heart's racing, his muscles are aching, and he goes to bed. And then the next day he wakes up and he's feeling even worse. He can barely move his legs, his arms feel like they're made of stone. He feels really, really bad. And Dave becomes convinced. The gym is dangerous. The gym exercise caused me to feel unwell. And Dave starts telling everyone he knows, don't go to the gym. The gym is dangerous. Don't trust the gym. I went there and it made me incredibly sick, so I avoid the gym like the plague. So here's the question. Is the gym dangerous? Did the gym cause Dave's problems? Again, just sit with that thought for a moment and leave your answer in the comments if you want. Let's move on to story number 3. Okay, so it's just a normal week, Tuesday night, and you've had a busy day all day. You go to bed, and then on Wednesday morning, you just feel really, really lazy, really low energy. So you spend the day lazing around in bed, watching films, eating junk food, barely able to do anything. You just feel like a complete potato. And eventually, come Wednesday night, you crash out, fall asleep. Thursday morning rolls around, and you wake up and you have a really sore throat. Your nose is running, your eyes are running, you feel sick as a dog. And you think to yourself, crikey, I really should have been more healthy on Wednesday. Lazing around all Wednesday led me to being sick. I've really got to be more healthy in my lifestyle. Did you draw the correct conclusion. Okay, so those were the three stories, all pretty straightforward, all hopefully somewhat relatable, and I suppose kind of obvious where the person was making the logical error. But did you see how they connect to lucid dreaming? So story number one, free candy, hopefully that's pretty obvious. You don't get into a strange van promising free candy, however charismatic the person is, and the person warning you probably has your best interests at heart. They're not just wanting to keep all the candy for themselves. And framed that way, it's pretty obvious. You don't get in the candy van. But in the world of lucid dreaming, there are a lot of candy vans, a lot of promises that seem too good to be true. And there are a few people warning you about those things. But oddly, in the world of lucid dreaming, the whole script gets flipped on its head. People tend to think the person doing the warning is the danger, that they're the problem, rather than realizing that the promise that is too good to be true is probably the issue. So ideas that sound too good to be true, things that you really want to be true, should be approached with caution. And try to resist the urge that when you're warned about that thing that you want to be true, not to dismiss it or to assume negative motivations simply because it contradicts you getting the thing that you want. It's blatantly obvious when taken to the extreme, such as the free candy van, but not so obvious in the more subtle realms of lucid dreaming. So let's now unpack story number two, Dave and the gym. Was Dave right to think that the gym caused him all those problems? Well, kind of, but not directly. Going to the gym wasn't the reason Dave felt so bad after being at the gym. The reason was that he was incredibly unfit to start with. The gym merely drew attention to that problem. In fact, if Dave kept going to the gym, he will have fixed that problem. So how on earth does that relate to lucid dreaming? Well, there are people out there who will make claims similar to Dave's that lucid dreaming caused them to have sleep paralysis, nightmares, or false awakenings. But those three things are the opposite of lucidity. They're a lack of awareness, whereas lucidity requires more awareness. In the same way that going to the gym made Dave aware that he wasn't very fit through the side effects, when people start practicing lucid dreaming, they start to realize that there's a lot of strange things that occur during sleep. They add just enough awareness to become aware of their lack of awareness. And if Dave had kept going to the gym, those side effects would have gone away because they're the opposite of fitness. And in the same way, if you continue lucid dreaming practice, false awakenings, sleep paralysis, and nightmares will go away because they are the opposite of awareness. And once again, hopefully it's obvious when we frame it in Dave's gym story, but it's not so obvious when it comes to the subtleties of psychology. Okay, so now let's deconstruct story number three. Getting sick on Thursday. Was it because you were lazing around on Wednesday that you got sick on Thursday? And hopefully if you've engaged a little bit of critical thinking, it should be relatively obvious. No, it wasn't your lazing around on Wednesday that made you sick on Thursday. Wednesday was actually the early symptoms of your sickness on Thursday. Feeling lazy, feeling low energy was part of the sickness, not the cause of the sickness. So how do you think that relates to lucid dreaming? Can you guess? Did you guess in the comments? Well, it may not be as obvious as you think because loads of people make this mistake. And it goes something like this. All of my lucid dreams lead to me waking up. I get lucid and within a few moments I'm awake. The lucidity must cause the wakefulness. But are we misassigning the causation? Is it the lucidity that causes the wakefulness, or did the wakefulness cause the lucidity? As your brain starts to prepare for wakefulness, as you start to wake up, your brain chemistry changes, the activation of different areas of your brain increases, so your chances of having a lucid dream increase. It was the nearing wakefulness that caused lucidity, not the other way round. It wasn't becoming lucid that woke you up, You got lucid because you were going to wake up. Or in other words, lucidity was an early symptom of waking up. It wasn't the cause of waking up. So these three stories were designed to get you to think a little deeper about the nature of causation and correlation and how easy it is to mix these things up to get them back to front. Generally, in waking life, it's easy to spot ourselves doing that, but when it comes to the subtle psychology of lucid dreaming, it's considerably harder. And this is why it's best not to assume, not to jump to conclusions, and to instead engage a little bit of critical thinking. And if you've enjoyed today's video, you might enjoy one of the videos on the screen right now. I'll see you there.